Imagine receiving a call to an address so bizarre that it makes you question your own sanity. That's exactly what happens to a ride-hailing driver when he's called to an unexpected and frightening location. Upon arrival, he discovers that the destination is a cemetery, and what he finds there will challenge everything you thought possible. With every passing second, the tension builds, and the suspense is palpable when he sees someone who should have been dead for 20 years. This reunion brings an intense mix of relief and anguish, revealing old mysteries and deep fears. Don't miss the chance to live this intriguing and exciting story until the end. Click to watch now and find out what really happened on that unforgettable night. The ride-hailing driver's phone vibrated on the dashboard, its blue light flashing intermittently. He looked at the screen, wondering at the address that had just appeared. A cemetery on the outskirts of the city. It was an unusual location for a ride, especially at that time of night. The city was silent and the full moon illuminated the way with a silvery glow that made the environment seem even more sinister. Tomas, the driver, was a practical and cautious man, known for always following his intuition. At that moment, however, his instincts were torn between curiosity and fear. Maybe this is a mistake, he thought, rubbing his chin as he considered whether to accept the ride. But what if it's something important? I can't just ignore it. With a sigh, he decided to accept the ride. After all, the city was quiet and he could use the money. He followed the app's instructions, heading towards the cemetery, its lights cutting through the darkness of the night. As he got closer, the sound of the tires on the road seemed to amplify the silence around him, and the wind whispered through the trees, creating an almost otherworldly atmosphere. The cemetery stretched out before him, a vast expanse of tombstones and monuments, covered in a soft mist that formed on the cold ground. Tomas stopped in front of the wrought iron gate, which was half open, and hesitated for a moment. The feeling of unease grew, but he forced himself to move forward, slowly entering the cemetery. The parking lot was empty, except for a dim light that flickered in the distance, near an old stone chapel. He drove there, his headlights illuminating the tombstones and shadows cast in an unsettling way. Tomas stopped the car and looked around, his mind racing with thoughts and questions. Who would be there at this time of night? And why? Finally, the figure of a person appeared in the shadows, walking slowly towards him. It was a woman dressed in simple clothes and a dark hat, with a serene and at the same time enigmatic appearance. Tomas was stunned when the figure approached and he recognized something familiar in her features. His heart raced as he realized that this woman was someone he knew well, someone he had lost a long time ago. "It can't be," he murmured, his voice trembling. "It's impossible." The driver reached out to open the car door, and the woman got in, smiling kindly at him. She settled into the back seat, and the atmosphere in the car instantly changed, becoming charged with a mix of emotions that Tomas couldn't identify. He turned to look at her through the rearview mirror, his eyes wide with surprise and confusion. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady, but feeling a palpable emotion in his throat. "How are you here? Are you, aren't you?" The woman smiled reassuringly. "Calm down, Tomas. I know this must seem confusing and surreal, but there's a lot to explain. All you need to know is that I'm here to tell you something important." Her voice was soft and comforting, and despite the strangeness of the situation, Tomas felt a wave of relief at hearing her. He started the car and began to drive, his mind buzzing with questions as the streets of the cemetery flashed past the car windows. The story he was about to hear would change his life forever. He turned to the rearview mirror, trying to keep his voice steady. "How is this possible? What's happening? I saw you leave. I've been alone without you for all these years." His mother looked at him through the mirror, her eyes still reflecting the same tenderness he remembered. "Calm down, Tomas. I know this is a shock. A long time ago, I had to step away to protect you and myself. There were things you couldn't understand at the time." Her words were like a balm for the turmoil in his heart, but the disbelief did not diminish. Tomas continued to look at her, the scene still unfolding as if in a surreal film. "But why now?" Tomas asked, his voice mixing despair and curiosity. "Why did you come back now, after so long?" His mother smiled softly, a smile that seemed to carry all the love and unspoken explanations of years. "I came back because there is something you need to know, something that has been left unanswered. There are mysteries and dangers that still need to be solved, and I am here to help you understand them. As the car began to move, the moonlit road seemed to drive him not only physically, but also emotionally. Tomas felt a wave of relief mixed with palpable anxiety. He was about to discover truths that could explain the emptiness he had felt for years and bring answers to questions he had never dared to ask. With his heart pounding, Tomas drove through the night, prepared to hear the explanations that would change his life forever, and to face any challenge that might arise from the surprising encounter with his mother. Tomas drove along the deserted road, his heart still racing from the startling sight of his mother. The silence inside the car was thick, interrupted only by the steady sound of the engine and the soft murmur of the wind. He cast an anxious glance in the rearview mirror, watching his mother settle into the back seat, her eyes shining with a quiet intensity. Finally, she began to speak, her voice soft but carrying a gravity that Tomas had never heard before. "Tomas, I know this is hard to believe. What you see here now is just the surface of a much deeper and more complex story." Tomas adjusted the steering wheel, trying to stay focused, while his world seemed to restructure itself around his mother's words. I'm listening. Please tell me what happened." She took a deep breath, as if preparing for a great revelation. "Many years ago, before I disappeared, there was an imminent threat looming over our family. It wasn't just any danger, it was something much more sinister and far-reaching." She began to tell her story, and each word seemed to carry an immense emotional weight. "When you were just a child, there were people who wanted to harm us. They were powerful forces that wanted to not only cause us physical harm, but also destroy everything we had and who we were. I knew that the only way to protect you and myself was to disappear." Tomas listened in silence, his brain struggling to process the gravity of the words his mother was sharing. "But why didn't you tell me? Why did you have to leave without a trace?" His mother looked at him through the mirror, her gaze filled with sadness and regret. "I had no choice. These people were dangerous and had resources that could track us at any moment. I needed to make sure you were raised safely, away from the danger that was coming. And to do that, I had to create a new identity and disappear without a trace." She continued, revealing details of a secret life that Tomas had never imagined. "For all these years, I lived under an assumed name, hiding in a different city. I worked menial jobs and tried to keep a low profile, always keeping a watchful eye to make sure no one discovered my true past. There were days when I felt like a shadow, always waiting for danger to find its way to me." Tomas felt a mixture of relief and confusion as he listened. The missing pieces of the puzzle in his life were beginning to fit together, but the revelation was so unexpected that he struggled to fully accept it. "And now? Why have you come back now, after all this time?" His mother took a deep breath and continued, her expression resolute. "The danger that threatened us for years has not been completely eliminated. It has transformed, becoming something more insidious and dangerous. And now something tells me that danger is approaching again. Not only for me, but for you as well." She paused, looking at Tomas with an intensity that seemed to pierce the car itself. "I came back to protect you, to prepare you for what is to come. There are secrets and truths that need to be revealed, so that we can face this threat together." The car drove through the night, while Tomas processed the story he had just heard. The weight of his mother's words hung in the air, and he knew that the journey he was about to undertake would be much more complicated than he had imagined. The reunion with his mother was only the beginning of a new and dangerous adventure, and he needed to be prepared for what would come next. With a mixture of determination and apprehension, Tomas drove down the road, knowing that his mother's revelation had changed everything. The story of his life was about to intertwine with a greater enigma, and he was ready to face whatever came. Tomas drove with his hands firmly on the steering wheel. The road before him seemed endless. The car passed through stretches illuminated only by moonlight, and the constant sound of the engine filled the heavy silence inside the vehicle. His mother, now sitting in the back seat, seemed focused on every word she was about to say. She began to speak with a serenity that contrasted with the gravity of what she was about to reveal. "Tomas, you need to understand the real reason behind my disappearance. It was not an easy decision, nor an act of selfishness. I was forced to act like this to ensure our survival." Tomas looked in the rearview mirror, trying to understand the emotions reflected on his mother's face. She continued, her voice calm and full of painful sincerity. Many years ago, when you were just a baby, we became targets of a dangerous enemy. This wasn't just an ordinary person. It was a secret organization that operated in the shadows, with dark intentions. Tomas frowned, trying to absorb every detail. What did these people want from us? Why were we targeted? His mother sighed deeply, her gaze distant, as if she were revisiting a dark past. They wanted something we had. It wasn't just money or material possessions. There was information and ancient secrets that were tied to our family. Secrets that could reveal powerful and dangerous truths that they wanted to use for their own nefarious purposes. She paused, her eyes filled with sadness. I knew that if we remained in public, we would be in grave danger. They had the resources and the determination to find us at any cost. So, to protect you and myself, I had to disappear. I created a new identity and retreated to a place where I believed I was safe. Tomas felt a wave of understanding mixed with anger. But why didn't you tell me anything? I grew up without you, without understanding what had happened. His mother reached out, trying to touch his shoulder through the rearview mirror. I didn't want you to carry the weight of this truth from an early age. I hoped that by leaving me you could live a normal, happy life, without the constant fear that I felt. But now danger is approaching again, and you need to know the truth to be prepared. The car continued its journey down the dark road, and the revelation made Tomas feel as if he were navigating a turbulent sea of emotions. He could imagine his mother suffering, living under a false identity, always on alert, while he struggled to understand her absence. I need to know more, Tomas said, his voice full of determination. What exactly do these people want now? And what do we have to do to face them? His mother looked at him with a steady, resolute gaze. These people still seek what they know we have. And now with time the threat has become more intense. They are getting closer, and we must prepare ourselves. I have come back not only to reveal the truth, but to join forces with you and face what is to come. Tomas felt a mixture of apprehension and courage. The journey that was about to begin was much greater than he had imagined. With the truth now revealed, he knew that reuniting with his mother was only the beginning of a struggle that would require all his strength and resilience. As the road stretched out before them, Tomas felt determination building within him. His family's history was entwined with mystery and danger, and he was ready to face the unknown alongside his mother. With a new sense of purpose, he drove into the night, prepared to uncover the truth and protect what he valued most. Tomas drove with focused intensity. The road ahead seemed to stretch on forever. The conversation with his mother had plunged into deep, turbulent waters, and the revelation of a secret conspiracy had changed everything. The interior of the car was silent, except for the sound of the engine and the soft murmur of the wind coming through the slightly open windows. His mother, sitting in the back seat, began to explain in more detail the complexity of the situation. What I haven't told you before, Tomas, is that the threat we face involves a network of powerful and influential people. They are connected to a conspiracy that goes back decades. Tomas glanced in the rearview mirror, trying to read his mother's expression. She looked tired, but her determination was intact. Who are these people? And what exactly do they want from us? She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself to share a painful truth. These people are members of a secret organization that has influenced important events throughout history, always keeping their actions hidden. They have interests in many areas: politics, economics, even scientific research. What they want is a secret that our family carries. A secret that could reveal information that would destabilize their control over many aspects of the world. Tomas felt a chill run down his spine. What secret is this? And why are they still after us? His mother looked at him with a dark gaze. Long ago, our ancestors discovered something that could change the balance of power. This knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, and it was carefully protected to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. When I realized that the threat was approaching, I knew I couldn't let you get caught up in it. The car drove along dark stretches of road, illuminated only by the dim light of the headlights. Tomas was absorbing the magnitude of his mother's words. But what exactly is this secret? And how could it put my life in danger now? His mother paused, as if struggling to find the right words. The secret is an ancient artifact, something that holds a key to unlocking profound knowledge. Many people throughout history have tried to find this artifact, and the secret organization I mention is one of them. They believe that if they can control this knowledge, they will have absolute power. Tomas felt the gravity of the situation settle over him like a crushing weight. So, they are after me because they believe I can lead them to this artifact? Exactly, his mother replied. And with my return, they must have learned that the secret is still alive. They are approaching again, and I need to make sure that you are protected and prepared for what is to come. The car crossed a bridge, and the sound of the wheels against the asphalt seemed louder than ever. The feeling of imminent danger was palpable. How can we face this? How can we protect ourselves from such a powerful conspiracy? His mother looked out the window with a determined expression. First, we need to find a safe place to plan our next steps. I have some old contacts who can help us, people who also know the truth and who have an interest in protecting the artifact. But we need to act quickly. The secret organization must be tracking our movements. The car entered a small town, and Tomas began to look for a place where they could take refuge and draw up a plan. Fear and anxiety were present, but the need to act quickly and accurately was even greater. As he drove, Tomas felt determination building within him. He was about to face a conspiracy involving powerful people and ancient secrets, and he needed to be prepared for any challenge. His family history and the fate of his life were intertwined with a plot much larger than he had imagined. As the night wore on, Tomas knew that the road ahead would be full of danger and uncertainty, but he was determined to discover the truth and protect what was most important. The dark road seemed to reflect the unknown journey that lay ahead, and with his mother's help, he was ready to face whatever the conspiracy revealed. Tomas drove down the road at night, the car's headlights illuminating just enough to see the road ahead. The steady sound of the engine and the rhythm of the road created an unsettling backdrop to the conversation that still hung in the air. The revelation of the conspiracy and the weight of his mother's words were still fresh in his mind, and the car seemed to carry an immense emotional weight. As he took a gentle curve, he noticed that the stretch of road was becoming quieter, and a sense of calm began to fill the air. The horizon was beginning to lighten, signaling the beginning of dawn. It was at that moment that the tension inside the car seemed to dissolve a little. His mother, who was sitting in the back seat, watched the changing scenery through the window. Suddenly, she leaned forward and spoke in a soft, emotion-laden voice. "Tomas, there is something I need you to know. Something that goes beyond secrets and conspiracy." Tomas, keeping his attention on the road, answered in a cautious tone. "What else do you need to tell me?" She took a deep breath, her voice beginning to waver. "I feel a deep need for you to know how much I love you and how sorry I am for having been absent for all these years. The decision to disappear was the hardest of my life, and I never wanted you to suffer because of it." Tomas's heart sank as he heard his mother's words. He could hear the weight of regret and pain in her voice. The road seemed to stretch out before him, and he realized that despite all the confusion and imminent danger, there was a deeply human and emotional aspect to the situation. He paused, allowing her words to sink in. "I don't know what to feel, Mom. You left me without explanation and now you're saying you did it to protect me. It's hard to believe that everything you did was for my own good." His mother, her eyes shining with tears, spoke with painful sincerity. "I understand how you feel. I know that you grew up without me, and that it left a void in your life. But I've always been thinking about you, even from afar. The truth is that when you were little, I made a difficult choice to ensure your safety. I hoped that one day I could come back and explain everything. And now, finally, I'm here to try to make up for some of what was lost." Tomas parked the car in a quiet spot on the side of the road, a small overlook that offered a panoramic view of the landscape at sunrise. The sun was slowly rising over the horizon, tinting the sky with shades of orange and pink. The scenery provided a comforting contrast to the intensity of the emotions that were running high. He turned to face his mother, his eyes meeting hers. "I don't know what the future holds for us, and I'm still trying to figure it all out. But for a moment I feel relieved to have you back. It's like a part of me that was missing has finally returned." She held out her hand, and Tomas hesitantly took it in his own. The simple but meaningful gesture was a symbol of reconciliation and mutual understanding. "I'm relieved to be back too, Tomas. I can't change the past, but I want to do everything I can to be by your side now, to face the challenges together and rebuild what was lost." The sun continued to rise, bringing new light to the day and symbolizing a new beginning. Tomas and his mother were in the midst of an emotional reunion, a mixture of relief, confusion, and hope. The road ahead was still full of uncertainty and danger, but for that moment at least, there was a sense of connection and understanding that united them. The car was parked at the viewpoint, and the view of the horizon at dawn represented the promise of a new journey. Tomas knew that the road would be long and challenging, but the presence of his mother by his side gave him renewed strength. Together they would face whatever came, with the weight of the past gradually being replaced by the hope of a future where they could rebuild and support each other. As the night wore on, the scene that had once seemed promising and full of new possibilities quickly became a battlefield. Tomas and his mother, after an emotional reunion and the revelation of a conspiracy that threatened their lives, were now about to face a new and imminent threat. The car was parked in a secluded spot, far from the city lights and surrounded by the darkness of the night. The sky was clear, dotted with stars, but the tranquility of the environment was not a reflection of what was happening. The sound of the wind and the rustling of the leaves of the trees became an unsettling backdrop to what was unfolding. Tomas was reviewing the map on his cell phone when suddenly, the sound of engines could be heard in the distance. His heart raced as he and his mother looked to the horizon, where two lights were rapidly approaching. Something was about to happen. "We have to act quickly," his mother said, her voice now full of urgency. "They must have found our location. We need to get out of here before it's too late." Tomas wasted no time. He started the car and revved the engine, his eyes fixed on the approaching lights. "Where should we go?" he asked, trying to remain calm as adrenaline coursed through his veins. "To the old cabin in the woods," his mother replied, looking at the map. "It's a place where we used to hide when there was danger. It's about 15 minutes away, but we need to be quick." The car slid down the dark road, and the sound of the engines behind them became clearer. The tension was palpable as Tomas drove at an increasing speed, each turn and each acceleration becoming a battle against time. The lights of the pursuing vehicles grew closer and closer, casting long, ominous shadows across the window. "We're almost there," his mother shouted, trying to encourage Tomas. "Keep going." Suddenly, a loud booming sound echoed through the air, a gunshot. Tomas felt an impact on the side of the car and saw smoke beginning to rise. The driver's side window shattered, and the car began to lose speed. "They're shooting at us!" exclaimed Tomas, trying to maintain control while steering with one hand and using the other to shield himself. "We have to find a way to defend ourselves." His mother looked into the back seat and grabbed a toolbox she had brought. "Find an alternative route. We can't stay on the main road." Tomas quickly maneuvered onto a side trail, a dirt path that extended into the forest. The trees closed in around him, creating a natural tunnel that offered a small hope of escaping his pursuers. He drove as fast as he could, the car bouncing over rocks and holes as the forest around him seemed like a dark maze. The engines of the pursuing vehicles continued to approach, their headlights illuminating the forest with an eerie light. Tomas and his mother were in a race against time, and the sense of urgency was almost unbearable. They needed to find the cabin and hide before the enemies could reach them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the silhouette of a small cabin appeared ahead, hidden among the trees. Tomas parked the car in an inconspicuous spot, and he and his mother ran inside the cabin, their hearts pounding. The cabin was dark and dusty, but it offered some temporary shelter. Tomas locked the door and used a chair to block the entrance. The only light came from a small flashlight he found on the shelf. "We're safe for now," his mother said, trying to catch her breath. "But we have to prepare ourselves. They won't give up easily." Tomas looked around the cabin, taking in the old furniture and cobwebs. The atmosphere was one of a mix of relief and tension. "What do we do now?" His mother approached a table in the corner of the room, where there was an old trunk. Inside this trunk, there are documents and information that can help us better understand the situation. We need to decipher everything we can before they attack us again. As they began to examine the documents and prepare for what was to come, Tomas and his mother felt the weight of the night and the chase, but also the strength of their determination and the hope that together they could face any challenge. The final conflict was far from over, but they were ready to fight for survival and the truth, facing the dangers that lurked in the darkness. After an intense night of persecution and revelations, Tomas and his mother were finally in a moment of calm. The light of dawn was beginning to filter through the cracks in the cabin, bringing a new day and a sense of relief. They had managed to lose their pursuers and solved part of the mysteries that surrounded them. However, the tranquility was only momentary, as a new and painful decision was about to be made. Tomas was sitting at the table, with a cup of hot coffee in his hands. He looked out the window, watching the sun slowly rise over the forest, painting the sky with golden and orange hues. His mother was busy organizing the documents they had found in the cabin, trying to separate what was important and relevant for their next step. With a deep sigh, she approached Tomas, the expression on her face mixing determination and sadness. "Tomas," she began, "I need to talk to you about what comes next." Tomas, looking at her with an expression of curiosity and concern, replied, "About what, mother? We've been through so much together. What else do you need to do?" She took a deep breath, and her eyes were filled with a quiet melancholy. "I've taken care of most of what I needed to do, and now it's time to move on to ensure the safety of our family. I can't stay here much longer. The threat is still real, and there's more work to be done to ensure everyone is safe." Tomas felt his heart sink. The reunion with his mother had been an emotional roller coaster, and now the thought of losing her again seemed almost unbearable. "So you're saying you have to leave again? After everything we've been through?" "Yes," his mother replied, her voice soft but firm. "My presence here has been a risk to both of us, and now I need to make sure the situation is truly under control. This is necessary to protect you and the others who are still in danger." A heavy silence hung in the air as Tomas processed his mother's words. He felt a mixture of gratitude and sadness. Being reunited with her had been a relief and a comfort, but the idea of being separated again was fraught with complex emotions. "I understand," Tomas said finally, his voice shaking a little. "I just wish things were different, that we could have more time together, without these threats and secrets." His mother approached and placed her hand on his shoulder, an expression of love and compassion in her eyes. "I would like that too, Tomas, but life doesn't always give us what we want. However, I hope that the time we spent together has shown you how strong and courageous you are. I trust you to keep going and face whatever challenges arise." Tomas stood up, feeling a mix of emotions. He hugged his mother, a gesture full of feeling and farewell. "I will miss you, Mom, and I will do my best to use what I have learned from you to do the right thing." She smiled, a sad but hopeful smile. "I will miss you too, Tomas. Remember that I will always be with you in spirit. And when this chapter is over, I hope we can be reunited in a safer and more peaceful world." With one last exchange of glances, Tomas followed his mother to the entrance of the cabin. The sun was higher now, bringing a sense of clarity and new beginnings. She climbed into a support car that had arrived to take her away, a discreet mode of transportation that would ensure her departure without attracting attention. Tomas watched as the car drove away, a feeling of resolute acceptance beginning to form within him. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but the reunion with his mother and the lessons he had learned gave him the strength and clarity to face whatever lay ahead. As the car disappeared into the distance, Tomas turned and walked back to the cabin. He needed to prepare himself for what was to come and face the challenges of his new phase of life with courage and determination. The dawn symbolized not only the end of a turbulent night, but the beginning of a journey full of possibilities, renewal, and new beginnings. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool morning breeze on his face. With one last look at the horizon, Tomas prepared to move forward, determined to build a better future, and protect the legacy his mother had entrusted to him. Life would go on with all its uncertainties and challenges, but now Tomas was ready to face each one of them with the strength he had acquired and renewed hope. Thank you for following Tomas and his mother's entire journey. If you were moved by this story and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive notifications of the next videos. Leave a like if you liked the video and share it with friends who would also enjoy this moving narrative. Until the next video, where we will continue exploring stories that touch the heart and challenge the imagination. See you soon.